Fruit Cove, WBOB.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks.
You're listening to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, where we're offering insights and solutions for today's seniors so you can age with confidence. We have a great show for you today. Becky Yanni is a new guest that is here with us today. She is the Executive Director of the St. Johns County Council on Aging. And Becky's going to be talking with us about the Council's mission to help the senior population in St. Johns County age in place with dignity. They offer a variety of wonderful programs, and we're really excited to talk to her today about all of the exciting things that they're doing and the wonderful resources that they offer. And also, we will be focusing on caregivers, specifically with people that are caregiving for loved ones with Parkinson's. Greg Richer and Greg Hummer are back to talk about Parkinson's and give us some tips on what caregivers can expect when you have that diagnosis and how to live a long and happy life with the diagnosis of Parkinson's. So we're happy to welcome them back to the show. And first, we have Donna Lee, who is the program director with the Alzheimer's Association, and she's back to discuss taking care of our caregivers as well. The Alzheimer's Association has phenomenal resources for families, especially caregivers. So we're going to be talking all about that and how you can deal with a diagnosis of a loved one, and of course, where to get more information if you have someone in your family that has recently been through a diagnosis of dementia. So stick around. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. And I have a very special guest today, Becky Yanni, who is the Executive Director of the St. Johns County Council on Aging. Becky, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, we're so happy to have you because you guys really do. You have a big role in the community, but no one really, or a lot of people don't really know what all you guys have to offer. So can we talk a little bit about the Council on Aging? Because you have a lot of functions within the county, do you not?
Well, we do. We serve the entire county, which is 600 square miles. And our role in the county is really to empower our seniors to age in the place that they call home with independence and dignity. And to empower them, we provide services and programs that give them the little bit of help that they need between being completely independent on their own and just needing a little bit of help. So we have essential nutrition services, we have essential transportation services, and we have essential programs. I think everybody's probably familiar with some of our nutrition services because I think most people have heard of Meals on Wheels. In St. Johns County, we're the agency that delivers those meals.
Yeah, everybody's heard of Meals on Wheels. It's such a great service. So if you are familiar and you have heard of Meals on Wheels, now you know where it actually comes from.
In St. Johns County, that's right. So we serve probably about 300 meals a day to homebound elders. And when I say we serve, let me just clarify that. We have a kitchen here in our headquarters downtown, and we're lucky to have a commercial-sized kitchen. So we cook the meals fresh every day and package them with a small staff and some volunteers. And then they are delivered, 100% delivered by volunteers who use their time and their own vehicles and their own gas in order to carry out this mission. And I can't say strongly enough, we would not be able to serve all the people that we serve without those volunteers. They are essential to the mission.
Yes, that is amazing. 300 meals a day. That's quite a production.
It is a production. It is a production. But we're happy to be able to cook those meals fresh every day. A lot of agencies around the state and around the nation have gotten away from that for one reason or another, and they use, some prepackaged meals which have the nutrition that people need. But we just feel that as long as we're able to provide that fresh quality, fresh cooked meals made here from our local vendors and local produce to as much as possible, that we're going to continue doing that. And our customers seem to like the meals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fresh is always better, right? It tastes better. It's better for you. So that's amazing.
That's true. And, if you are older, sometimes there are challenges to your appetite. You might not be feeling well. You might be on medications. You might not have a lot of activity, but you still need that nutrition. And so you're going to eat better if the food is more appealing to you. So again, we're just going to try to keep that going as long as we can.
Absolutely. Well, it's wonderful for people to volunteer their time and gas money these days. I know. Yeah, to provide that.
Volunteers wind up making relationships with some of the people that they serve. I mean, they have a number of people to serve, so they can't stay a long time, but sometimes they serve the same people, on a route for a number of years, and they get to know them, and they can see other needs that they have. See, half the mission of the Meals on Wheels is the other half of the mission, besides the nutrition, is having eyes and ears on the ground with people that are homebound. And many of these folks don't see anybody else all day long. Right. So Meals on Wheels volunteer comes, they are able to, if need be, report back to us, Mrs. So-and-so doesn't look too good. Mr. Jones didn't answer the door, this or that. And then we're able to follow up with that, with wellness check and so forth.
I was just thinking that it's a wellness check really every day. Yeah. Not that they're providing that. I mean, as they're not health providers, but it's just a nice way to check in and say, because there's a lot of isolation as you get older and you lose your ability to drive, and you don't have a lot of access to transportation, which I know you guys help out with as well, but you're home a lot and you're just really reliant on people visiting you. So that's such a great additional bonus to have that little visit, and also just to make sure that everything's going okay with them.
Right. And isolation is one of the things that we really try to combat in a number of ways, because we know that isolation and loneliness lead to depression, and this leads to a whole host of mental and physical problems. It's sort of a downward spiral when people are isolated and lonely for a period of time. I don't know if you know this, but several years ago in the United Kingdom, they created a post called the Minister of Loneliness, because it's such an immense health problem, and we're recognizing that in the United States as well. So part of our mission in helping to support people with their independence and dignity and staying at home is to find ways to combat that isolation and loneliness.
Yeah, we're really, as human beings, we are just meant to be with other humans. We're not really made to be an island. And I think as we learn more about, ourselves and just how we're wired and how our mental health plays into, just everything, then I think that we're kind of getting the picture and that we're understanding. But the other challenge with that too is, I live 2.5 hours, from my father. So we, as a society and as families, we don't stick together like we used to. Brittany and I mentioned on the show a few weeks ago, there's that great documentary on Netflix about the blue zones.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with what it is.
Yes.
But it was so wonderful to see how, aging in place, it's not even really a question for those, families. It's just kind of what they do. And their lifestyle is obviously very different than most Americans in many ways. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges.
We are spread out now. We are
spread out,
as you said, families don't stay in the same geographic location. They're spread out. And so older people don't have the support around them that we once had. And so there are a lot of folks that we are dealing with adult children of older, of seniors who live in New York or Ohio or wherever, and their parents retired to Florida because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And they retire to Florida in good health and in early, in their early retirement. And as time goes on, more and more needs come to the fore. And so the children who live far away sometimes reach out to us to find out what we can do to help their parents with their independence. You can try to stay connected, but it's not the same as, the old days when everybody was in the same town or even in the same little geographic area of a town.
Right, exactly. And if someone with like the Meals on Wheels program, if someone is in need of that, do they give you a call, or how does it work for someone who wants to get enrolled in that?
Well, our Meals on Wheels program, many of our meals are subsidized by grant funding. And in that case, when we're notified that someone wants meals, they go through an assessment process. And when they are assessed, and if they qualify, then we get funding to provide those meals. That process can be anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months. And so therefore we have fundraising efforts to provide a fund to help people mitigate that wait time. For example, we had a gentleman who was a caregiver for his father and his disabled brother. He was under a lot of stress and he had a heart attack.
Oh, no.
The father and brother needed a meal the next day, but the assessment process was going to take quite some time. So we were able, because of generous donors, to come together and make sure that they got what they needed immediately while the older father went through the assessment process.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah, because caregiving is so stressful, and we're seeing that, the amount of stress that people are taking, that they're taking on, rather bravely and as they, as people feel they should, but it's a lot. I mean, it's very taxing emotionally, and physically, because a lot of times, the people don't sleep, it's,
right.
I mean, it's really, it could be 24/7 in a lot of instances. So are you guys seeing?
It is 24/7. So, I once read a book when a family member had Alzheimer's, and the book was called The 36-Hour Day, because, that's what it can feel like, because, sometimes in some stages, folks need constant monitoring, and that can be in the middle of the night. It can be at 4 o'clock in the morning. It can be really nonstop. And so it is, we do have a pretty robust caregiving program to support caregivers.
I was going to say, you guys have some educational programs and some things specifically for caregivers, don't you?
We do. We have an educational course that's kind of where you learn a lot of the things that you might expect, and some of the tried and true methods to deal with common problems, common challenges that you face in caregiving. We also have caregiver support groups where people come together to find that they, are not alone. And we have a lot of educational opportunities for caregivers when there is new information available, or perhaps there is a medical provider, a doctor or a neurologist, or someone who can give a lecture on the latest news on dementia or Alzheimer's. So we do provide as much support as we possibly can for caregivers, because we know it's not just the person who's challenged, it's the whole family is challenged.
Sure.
And actually the community is challenged, because caregivers, they have to take time off of work. They have higher rates of absenteeism. Many times caregivers are in their final stretch of their working years, and they have to quit their jobs to take care of someone, and then that affects their income when it's time for them to retire and take care of themselves. So it's just this radiating effect. Most of the caregivers in the United States are unpaid family members.
Yeah.
So in fact,
it's a big deal. I have several clients that, it's usually, it can be a son as well, but a lot of times the daughter, and she's given up work, and that affects her income. It affects her retirement. I mean, her future, financially. So it's quite a bit. And, there's a stigma too around paying for that. There's something called a caregiver. You probably are familiar with this, but family services contracts and, family caregiver agreements and things like that, where the person who needs the care agrees to pay the family members. And there's for some, a lot of people, there's kind of a stigma about being paid to take care of your mother or your father. But, the truth of the matter is sometimes we use it for additional purposes and, Medicaid planning and things like that. I had a neighbor in that situation. I'm thinking of her specifically. And, some people thought, oh my gosh, her mom, she's getting paid by her mom to take care of her. And I thought, well, she gave up her job, So
that's exactly right. The mother would rather have her to take care of her than someone else, than a hired help. And so it's more beneficial to everyone. But you're right. I see the stigma because people feel, oh, it's my duty and I should just do it, and no matter how detrimental it is to me and my welfare. And so there really should not be that stigma. You have to understand that, someday you too will retire and you'll need help, and you need to prepare for your own future.
Right.
And but it happens.
It does. And most people don't, want to be a burden to their children. I think I hear that so much with planning with families is I don't want to be a burden to them. I don't want to, but the fact of the matter is what we're seeing is more and more dementia and more of these types of cognitive diseases. So thank God you guys are around and helping out because, we need it. We need more and more, especially in Florida where so many people come to retire and so many people have moved to St. Johns County in the past, few years. How are you guys dealing with that? Are you seeing a huge demand, greater demand in services?
There is a greater demand in services, and it's not just all the folks who are moving in, but the folks who are already here that are now aging into that age group. So yes, we are seeing a greater demand for services, and so that's why we continually advocate for greater funding from the state and the federal government, and we also put considerable effort into private fundraising. We are a private nonprofit. We are not a government agency, which is a common misconception because we are the St. Johns County Council on Aging, but we are a private nonprofit. And that, although we contract with government agencies to provide services, having that flexibility of being a private nonprofit allows us to do a lot of fundraising and work with a lot of volunteers and actually expands our mission, so that rather than saying, well, this is the amount of money we get from Department of Elder Affairs, what can we do with it? We say, well, this is the need, it's this big, the funding is only this big, so what can we do to fill that need? And so that's where our development comes in. For example, back to Meals on Wheels, and I told you we had some private donors who created a fund so that we can mitigate that wait list. Currently working with a group of women friends who have been friends for like 30 or 40 years, going way back to when they played volleyball and softball together and have stayed a cohesive group. And now a senior member of that group is homebound and experiencing really a lot of illness and difficulty with her daily activities. So the group came together to cover her Meals on Wheels, which allowed their friend to be able to use her funds for other things like in-home care. And so we see this kind of generosity among friends, among groups, all the time to come and help people bridge that gap. And that's really what we're doing. We do not and probably will not ever have enough government funding to provide for all the need that we have. So we're looking for other ways to bridge that gap.
Well, I love that. You're such a great connector, for the community to put all of these things in place for people that are so needed. So thank you so much for everything that you guys do. We are and so grateful for having you on the show today. We are out of time for now, but you've been listening to the Elder Law Hour. And Becky, if someone needs to get in touch with you guys, how should they do that?
Well, you can call our main number, which is 904-209-3700. That's our main number, and we have live receptionists. You will not be attached to a phone tree. You will talk to a person when you dial that number, and then that person can direct you to the appropriate department. And of course, you can also go to our website, which is just coasjc.org.
Right.
Okay, so COA for Council on Aging, SJC for St. Johns County, coasjc.org.
Great. Thank you so much. And we will also put those links and that phone number on our website, elderlawhour.com, if you want to head on over there to find out more about this episode or about the Council on Aging. Becky, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. We will be right back.
This is Vicki Oakes, your St. Johns County Supervisor of Elections. The 2024 elections are coming. They will be here soon. Are you election ready? If not, and you need to be, you can visit our website at votesjc.gov. That's votesjc.gov, or contact our office at 904-823-2238. Make sure you are election ready.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I'm very happy to be here with Donna Lee, who is the local program director for the Alzheimer's Association here in the Jacksonville area. Donna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here.
Well, I'd love to talk a little bit about the part of Alzheimer's that we don't really think a whole lot about, and that is the caregiver side, because we have a lot of caregivers. First of all, we have a lot of people suffering from Alzheimer's in the
Correct.
area. I think you had mentioned that number is upwards of 17,000 people.
That's correct.
That's a lot of people in Jacksonville that are
Yes, it
suffering
is.
from Alzheimer's. And those people have other people, right, that
That's
are caring for them. What can we do? What can we do for caregivers? And what can we do to support them through these times?
Well, it's important to understand the volume of what's happening just here in Florida around us. Again, there's 17,000 plus people in Duval County that have confirmed diagnosis of Alzheimer's or some type of dementia. However, let's talk statewide. First off, 1 in 3 seniors will develop some type of dementia. It could be Alzheimer's, could be Lewy body dementia, could be vascular dementia, but 1 in 3 seniors develop this. Women are absolutely at a higher risk for that, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But right here in Florida, there is over 580,000 caregivers.
Oh, gosh.
580,000 caregivers.
That's a lot of people.
And there's over $1.3 billion worth of unpaid, and these are just documented unpaid hours that caregivers are giving that equate to $1.3 billion.
That's amazing.
It is a huge amount of just hours that actually turn into dollars or lack thereof, because there are people, it's not just women, but women are more naturally the caregiver. We're more the nurturers in the families and things like that. So it is often women that wind up, it could be quitting their jobs, decreasing their jobs, leaving whatever life looks like to have to provide care. And it's not just children. We see adult siblings taking care of each other. Adult grandchildren, things like that. So it's multi-generational. It's not just women, but you do see a disproportionate amount of women that wind up in the caregiver roles, for various reasons. And we're looking to see an increase of that by about 24% based on the current growth that we're seeing.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, just the numbers are staggering. But then beyond that, when we talk about the caregivers, because a family gets a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, it's not just one person, because you have to have that family support group and that network.
Yeah.
But, most people don't realize that, 66% of caregivers have chronic health issues themselves.
Oh, gosh. I could imagine.
66%.
Well, it's quite stressful. I mean,
Absolutely.
You're dealing with somebody that has a cognitive disability. You are trying not to lose your temper, because the fact of the matter is, it's like dealing with a toddler in some instances where the reasoning part is not there sometimes, right? But you still have to go to work, or
That's
you
right.
still have to go do whatever. Dishes still have to be done. Life still has to happen. So I can understand the extreme amount of stress that the caregivers are under on a daily basis.
Well, 30% of caregivers have been diagnosed with some level of depression.
Oh, gosh.
14% of caregivers are considered in poor health themselves because of ongoing chronic health conditions or combination thereof, or just in some cases, you could have two people in the same household, especially if you have a spouse as a caregiver. Mm-hmm. Both of them have some level of dementia or cognitive decline.
Right.
And that is just a difficult, very, very difficult situation.
Very difficult situation. And a lot of times too, families don't really stay in the same area anymore. I'm not too far from mine, but I'm 2.5 hours away. Luckily my sister is there still, but that's not always the case. I mean, kids grow up and they go across the country. I mean,
That's
with
right.
jobs, everybody is so mobile these days. So what kind of tips do you have maybe of keeping everybody on the same page with what's going on with, let's just say, the parent who is going through it? How do you all agree? How does everybody come together and figure out what to do about it?
So the Alzheimer's Association, we have an entire suite of programs and classes that are actually geared towards the caregiver. It's not even geared towards the person with Alzheimer's or dementia.
That sounds really great.
Yes. And even long distance caregiving. We can help navigate that. What are the best ways for a family to come together? And it could be something as simple as an online support group. Maybe they meet on, Monday nights at 7:00. Everybody in the family jump on, to start talking to other families that may be going through this. Establishing a communication cadence for the family. If family members are noticing and logging habitual things that may be starting to impact cognitive declines that are now being disruptive to daily life, communication is the key. If you've got, unfortunately, infighting and just people don't get along with siblings and things like that, get over it. Find a way to get over it, because that parent is, of course, the most important thing. I encourage people to call our helpline at 1-800-272-3900 to help identify local resources in the backyard. What do you have available in your community that can help? Maybe it's signing up this parent for the local Meals on Wheels program or whatever variation there is, that puts somebody going by the house on a routine basis that does a well check. Investigate what senior services can actually do. They do vary county to county.
Sure.
What is available could look different from one place to another. But if you're not right there next door or you can't get there, figure out what can be done locally. Have the conversations about what are the thresholds. My own father and I, we had kind of a light bulb moment. A gentleman that he worked with for 40-something years passed away with Alzheimer's, and we didn't know it. We just knew that he was at home. His wife was his caregiver. There was some sort of cognitive decline. Yeah. And this has been about 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. But this gentleman's wife called up one Saturday morning and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, Bob, my husband, passed away last night." And my father said, "Oh, Ann, I am so sorry to hear that." She said, "Well, I'm not. I'm glad he's gone." And we're like, whoa, hold on. What on earth?
Not the reaction you thought. Yeah.
So then we started peeling back the layers of the situation. Come to find out, she had been his primary caregiver for 12 years. He had turned abusive. It was terrible situation. So what that did for us, while it was terrible that family went through that, their adult children did not know what their mom was suffering at home.
Oh my gosh.
Did not know.
Yeah.
So keeping those lines of communication open would be key. And for me and my dad, what we took from that was we sat down and we have a 22 numbered list of these are the thresholds.
Okay.
And one of them is if he were to ever be physically abusive to me, it's because he's angry, frustrated, if he's having cognitive declines and he's taking it out on me, and knock on wood, we're not seeing any of that, and he's actually 85. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But we have a threshold now that we hammered out at the kitchen table to say, if these things happen, you go ahead and put me in a facility, and you are no longer my caregiver.
Okay. So then you've got a plan in place.
We do. But we would have never had that conversation had we not experienced and just heard about another family going through that.
Absolutely.
So families, get ahead of it. If you have somebody in your family that's over the age of about 65, get in those conversations now.
Yeah.
Get in them now. Figure it out now.
Because nobody wants to go to a facility. I hear it over and over every day. Everybody that I plan with, 99% of the time say, I never want to go to a nursing home. We're not doing that in our family. I hear that a lot. We're not doing it. We take care of our people. But the reality is, like I'm thinking of a client in particular, her husband became very violent towards her. She couldn't take care of him. There was just absolutely no way she could continue to live with him. It became an unsafe situation for her. So yeah, he did have to go. And I mean, she felt a tremendous amount of guilt about that, but you can't go down with them, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you're still, as a caregiver, I mean, you're probably a lot of times maybe not sleeping very well.
Right.
You're not having time for your own needs. So it's just an incredibly difficult, situation to deal with. And I'd have to think too, there's a lot of resentment that could build up.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if I quit my job, let's say, to take care of somebody, I mean, that's hard to get over in one way. I mean, I know that sounds very selfish. That has impacted my future quite a bit. Right.
Well, we're all humans, and it boils down to we're all humans, and we make decisions and we take actions based on emotions. Even if you have a person that has a significant amount of cognitive decline, they're still running on emotions the same way we are, that we can't help them in the way that we think we should. They can't get out of the space that they're in and that level of frustration. They can't do anything about it. So how do we make sure that all of that doesn't collide and blow up?
Yes.
How do we do that? I encourage families to get involved with support groups. It is amazing what families have been able to formulate on their own, what kind of tips and tricks and coping skills and coping mechanisms that families have developed by sheer trial and error.
Yeah.
The Alzheimer's Association has a 24/7 online support group. It's amazing to just read the chat.
Yeah.
Just read the chat. Somebody can say, okay, my loved one is doing this and this and this. What do I do? And the tips and the tricks and just what this family's tried and didn't work or did work or whatever. It's amazing what families come up with.
Yeah.
And that can be your best friend to try to navigate it.
I have some, just to speak to that, I have some clients that it has absolutely saved them. They just sing the praises of the Alzheimer's Association and the support that they're receiving and all of the tips, and they're learning how to communicate. They're learning not to argue, for instance.
Right.
They've learned just roll with it and redirect.
Yep.
and it has really helped that entire family so much navigating a really difficult situation. So the work that you guys do is amazing. And just from our standpoint of seeing the families just benefit from that so much, I truly appreciate it.
Well, we are happy to do it. There is everybody has some sort of connection to the disease, and just because it is so prevalent, it's just happening around us. Everybody knows somebody, and just the Alzheimer's Association, we're there for the caregivers. We're there to help make that journey better. We can't make it easier necessarily, but we can help with tools, enhancing a caregiver's toolbox, taking care of the family as well, being able to give them navigational tools to be able to navigate the journey along with that person. And I'm hoping that our research side, that by the time I leave this world, we have a survivor. Right now we don't. There is no cure. But the Alzheimer's Association, we are committed to finding a cure and on our day-to-day lives, making the caregiver journey easier.
And we have to just believe that it's around the corner, don't we? Yes, let's believe that, because it very well could be. Most families that I've dealt with, at least when they know, they know. But when is it time to talk about memory care? So
we have to make sure that families are not living the ostrich syndrome and they're not sticking their head in the sand. Most families, they are just in total denial. They've seen the signs.
Yeah.
They see it. They absolutely
don't want to deal with it there.
They don't want to speak it into existence.
Exactly.
And like just the simple things like withdrawing socially, those small collections of cognitive disruptions in their lives. Those mean something.
Yeah.
You can't wait 6 months and finally say, okay, they wrecked a vehicle or they caught the house on fire or whatever. You can't wait. So get ahead of it. Yeah. As quick as you start seeing indicators and collections of indicators, take action. Don't wait. Don't live in denial.
Yeah.
Get ahead of it.
And keep everybody safe, number one. Well, Donna, thank you so much for being here. I think this was a great conversation about how caregivers can help themselves, but also help their loved ones. And if they need more support, where can they go?
So absolutely call 1-800-272-3900. That is our 24/7, 365 helpline. You get a live person, and they are your entry point to all things. And you can also visit our website at alz.org. Super simple, alz.org.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to invest in real estate without the headaches? Look no further than investjacksonville.com, your trusted partner in turnkey real estate investments. With over 18 years of experience, our process has been fine-tuned, and now we're opening up our team to other people just like you. At investjacksonville.com, we're selective about who we work with because we believe in delivering the best. Our dedicated acquisition team scours the market to find the finest properties, while our skilled construction and maintenance team ensures every detail is taken care of. From new roofs to granite countertops, HVAC systems to plumbing and electrical, we leave no stone unturned to make sure there's no surprises. We're in this together with our investors for the long haul. With our first-year guarantee, we put our money where our mouth is. We guarantee your rental rate for the first year, giving you time to build reserves and budget for any surprises that may come your way later. We believe in our construction team and our tenant placement team, which is why we offer this unbelievable guarantee. We're committed to your success and peace of mind. We're passionate about making it simple and easy and a no-brainer for others to get started investing, because we know what real estate can do for people to reach financial freedom. So if you're ready to invest with confidence, contact Invest Jacksonville today at 904-536-3000 or visit our website at investjacksonville.com. Let us show you why there's nobody quite like us. investjacksonville.com, your authentic partner in hassle-free real estate investing. Contact us now.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I'm very lucky to be here today with the organization Jack's Hope, and that is Greg Hummer and Greg Richer, who are the brains and brawn behind Jack's Hope. Thank you guys so much for being here.
It's our pleasure.
So Jack's Hope is an organization that is meant to help individuals that have been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and also help the families find support and activities and community resources that affect people with Parkinson's. And you both have actually been diagnosed with Parkinson's. So this is really a very special project for you both, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It really is. It's helped me to be active. It's kind of like medicine for me to help people. It's good to, when you first get diagnosed, to take in all the information you can get, but sooner or later you got to give a little bit. And that's what we try to do is give back to the community and help people with Parkinson's, their caregivers or loved ones, just live a normal life, and which can be done. It's not that death sentence that we have.
I was just going to say that people get really afraid from that diagnosis, but I mean, there are people that live for 20 plus years with this disease and can actually have a very productive and meaningful life. I mean, certainly there are going to be some limitations, but I think, Greg Hummer, you were saying you know of a lady that had the disease for 30 years and was able
to. Yes, she's been a part of our support group for as long as I've been there, part of our exercise group. She goes to all the barbecues, all the picnics, and she was diagnosed in her 40s.
Oh, wow.
And she stayed active the whole time. And unfortunately, she passed away last Sunday. She had a mini stroke. But even then, she was out looking at Clydesdale horses in Ocala with her daughter and her caregiver. So, it's examples like that it's not a death sentence. You can live a life. And we might be a little shaky. We might walk a little crooked. We might drool our food. We might stutter a little bit. But hey, we can still have fun. We can still have a good laugh.
Yeah. Well, immediately when you think of Parkinson's, at least I think a lot of people in the community would immediately think of Michael J. Fox, because he has really become the the symbol, the poster boy for the disease. And he's done a lot for it, right? Greg Richer, I mean, yes. We were speaking about funding, and, has most of the funding and the research really come out of his foundation?
Yes, compared to what the government spends, Michael J. Fox, since the year 2000 and the inception of the Michael J. Fox Foundation, has donated over $3 billion towards Parkinson's research. And as a victory, just this spring in April, they announced that they finally have a biomarker that they can absolutely tell if someone has Parkinson's or not with 100% clarity. Unfortunately, it's a very invasive procedure. It involves getting spinal fluid and stuff like that. They're working on trying to come up with something that would be far less invasive, maybe from saliva, maybe from mucus in your nose or oils on your skin.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like one of those, DNA tests where you can just spit into the little test tube. That sounds a little more intrusive.
Yeah, prior to this, the only way to know if somebody had Parkinson's was to have them pass away and then look and, perform an autopsy and do that.
Right.
And
yeah.
That's generally considered by the American public as fairly intrusive into your life. So,
true.
Yeah, we're looking for things to help us, be able to find a cure, and if not a cure, be a series of treatments that could delay or help enhance the lives of people that we're doing through empowerment, through education, and things like that.
And one of the challenges that you guys have, and that the medical community and certainly the foundations with their research, is that not everyone has the same type of Parkinson's, right? I mean, the symptoms are different, and it seems like perhaps the causes are different, and everyone has a different experience. So that has to be very challenging in finding a cure or some, treatment that is really effective.
Like Greg, when he was first diagnosed, his first symptom was the tremor in his finger, and mine was something completely different. I didn't have a tremor till later on. So we're all different. You meet one person with Parkinson's, you met one person with Parkinson's, and you can have a group of people, and some of them shake, some of them can hardly walk, some of them freeze. Sometimes we stutter. It's just numerous, the symptoms, and it's all different. And that's why there's so much confusion of what Parkinson is and what it isn't.
And traditionally, it's been, like we were saying before when we were talking, the old man's disease, but that's not so much the case anymore. I just got out of I just had a conversation with a client whose mother was also diagnosed, as I mentioned to you guys that my own mother was diagnosed with Parkinson's as well. And it has been a male disease, but that's changing, isn't it?
Yes. If you go back to the literature on Parkinson's, when I was first diagnosed in 2011, it'll tell you that by a 2-to-1 factor, there are far more males, and generally older people. What's changing about Parkinson's is that a greater percentage of people, meaning more than 20%, are experiencing the disease at an earlier age. They still have to work. They still have to raise children. I was fortunate enough, I was 55 when I was diagnosed. So my kids were out of the household. And
that's still pretty young, though.
Oh, absolutely. And Parkinson's impacted my ability to do my job. I had to step down from being the president of a organization, and I became the director of training because I could at least think along those lines. But it's one of those things that with Parkinson's, you need to understand that some people have Parkinson's because of a genetic predisposition. Some people probably have Parkinson's. It's called idiopathic Parkinson's from environmental toxins that they were exposed to. Some people have Parkinson's because our U.S. government sprayed them with Agent Orange while they were fighting for their country in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And so there's a thing called experiential Parkinson's. And unfortunately, we do a lot better job of spraying our war veterans than we do taking care of them.
Yeah, that's such a shame. Well, with the treatments, so it makes the treatments incredibly difficult too. You know, there's no one size fits all. Like, you know, you have a cancer diagnosis, you kind of know what the course of treatment is. But with this, it's a lot of trial and error, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like people ever have different medicines that they take. Some people take a medicine and they get allergic to it. Others cause you to do things and you think things that you shouldn't be thinking. So it takes a while. And until we have the research complete to know where exactly the Parkinson's is in the brain, it's going to be like that. Me personally, it took 3 to 4 years before I finally got the right recipe to where it maintained my symptoms, to where I could function. And people sometimes are lucky, they get on the medication right away. The main medication used now is carbidopa-levodopa, which I believe was approved in 1960. And all the other medicines are really a form of that. There's really nothing new. I mean, there's ways that you can take it. I mean, there's ways you can put a thing in your stomach and you have it all day long. You get a constant dosage. They have inhalers, they have patches, but it's all carbidopa-levodopa. That's the main medicine used, and there really hasn't been that much of advancement. They're working on things, and hopefully in the next couple of years, they'll have something that'll completely mask the symptoms and make them last for a long time.
Yeah. Well, so switching gears a little bit. Once someone's diagnosed, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of questions for obviously the person, you know, like such as yourselves that have received the diagnosis. But let's talk a little bit about the family, because it's really hard to be the bystander as well. You want to provide all this help. You want to do what you should do, but you don't really know what to do. So for someone who is in a situation where perhaps they're a caregiver or a close family member, what are some tips that you would tell them in those initial stages?
I would say really 3 things. Number 1, you can go to Jack's Hope website. We have information. We hold a yearly conference on caregiving, bring in speakers and experts. Number 2, so education. Intellectually, you have to understand what's going on in your partner with Parkinson's. We refer to each other as parkies. So I'll just use that phrase and you'll know what I mean. But
all right.
So the caregiver that's working with a parkie. Number 2, I think it's important for caregivers to not feel bad about taking time for themselves. They have to be able to relax. They've got to be able to have some other part of their life that is not all about Parkinson's. You know, I have Parkinson's. My life is all about dealing with Parkinson's every day. but that doesn't mean I have to do that to my wife. I've got to let her go off and enjoy the things that she wants to do. And hopefully I won't burn the house down while she's gone. Thirdly, I think it's just as important for people with support that are the support caregiver to join support groups of other caregivers. It's one thing to come to the Parkinson's support group and watch us do hula hoops or boxing or listen to a doctor. And another thing to be able to go to another collective group, and you mentioned this earlier, we belong in tribes.
Yeah.
We are pack animals. We do best when we're with other people. If you can find a support group, and our website, Jack's Hope, has information on where some of these caregiver support groups are located and how to get a hold of them and do things like that. Those are the three critical things that I would suggest anyone faced with being a caregiver for a loved one with Parkinson's.
Okay. Greg Hummer, did you have anything to add on that? I know you're married as well, and how has it gone for you?
It's my doctor took my wife aside and says he has Parkinson's, but don't baby him. Don't feel sorry for him. Let him do things, make him do things, encourage him to do things. So that's been a big help with me. And she's been behind me, and she helps me with the support group and our other groups that we have. But yeah, caregivers need time away, and we have to provide that for them. And some of people with Parkinson's, unfortunately, they have to have almost 24-hour care. So we've got to find ways to have someone take care of them while their wife goes out, maybe to lunch or goes out shopping with another group, so they don't have to deal with it all the time, that they can have a break. And our caregiver group, they'll visit people in hospitals, they'll cook meals for people that need help. That was one of the things I think was missing. We would have meetings, we'd have support group meetings, we'd have activities, but if someone was out of commission for a time, like a caregiver got sick and they needed maybe a meal brought in, we weren't doing it. So now we've done that we're helping a little bit more. If they need transportation, we help. We're all one family. And when you have Parkinson's, unfortunately, the whole family has Parkinson's. But they need to break away from time to time. And that's what we do. In Jack's Hope, we do have the annual Caregiver Summit that we educate you how to take care of us, but then we tell you how to get away from them for a while,
Right.
Enjoy yourself, have your own life. And I think that's very important.
Absolutely. Because, what we've seen with the rise in caregiving for others is that our caregivers are also, within a few years of it, they are getting diagnosed with more and more depression, for instance. And, it takes a toll. It certainly takes a toll. And I love what you guys are doing. I think it's incredibly important for people with Parkinson's to get out in the community, find other parkies, right? I love that. Find other parkies to spend time with and talk to and get your exercise and really just, it's not a death sentence. It's something that you can live with for quite some time. So thank you so much to both of you for being here. If someone does want to reach out to Jack's Hope, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go to our website, jackshope.org, or they can call us at 904-801-5535. If we don't answer, leave a message and someone will get back with you within that day. If you need to talk to someone with Parkinson's, or if you need to talk to a caregiver, we have people that will talk to you, and maybe you just need somebody to, talk with. And so that we're here for you.
Well, thank you so much.
Also, if I could, I'd just like to mention for our veterans, we have in our support group a gentleman who works for an organization called the Vet Centers. They are a part of the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. They have a phone number of 877-927-3888. 8387. So if there are any of our veterans out there, thank you for your service. But that is a phone number that you can call to get involved with the Vet Center, and they will direct you to a local resource for people to get involved in that as well.
Great. Thank you so much for adding that. And we will also put the information on our website if you want to head on over to elderlawhour.com for more information about this episode and Jack's Hope and the wonderful resource with the VA. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. And you've been listening to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. We'll be right back.
Are you approaching retirement or entering a new chapter of life? Now is the time to consider critical decisions that impact your future and the well-being of your loved ones. As you navigate this transition, ensure you've secured your legacy through proper estate planning. Don't fall into the common misconception that you and your spouse can make decisions for each other in times of legal incapacity without a plan in place. Without proper estate planning, you risk a probate judge making decisions for you, which can be costly and cumbersome for your spouse. Protect your assets and ensure they align with your unique circumstances and objectives. Avoid the default state laws that may not reflect your wishes and could lead to unintended consequences, such as disinheriting your spouse or forcing them to litigate your estate. You also may be considering the possibility of a new relationship after the loss of a spouse. It's essential to enter these relationships with clarity, safeguarding your assets and preserving existing family ties. A premarital agreement becomes crucial in these situations, providing legal protection and clarity. When it comes to your children, thoughtful estate planning is key. Protect their inheritance from squandering, divorces, lawsuits, and bankruptcies. Your hard-earned wealth should be a source of security, not vulnerability. Additionally, plan for long-term care, a significant consideration as you enter retirement. Secure a long-term care insurance policy while you still qualify, and explore alternatives that can convert into life insurance if not needed. Statistics show a 70% likelihood of requiring long-term care after the age of 65, making proactive planning essential. Our team can guide you through this process, helping you replace impersonal state-written plans with a tailored approach that safeguards your assets and family. Don't overlook estate planning as you approach retirement. Book a call with us today to secure your future with confidence. Visit emilyhickslaw.com and book a call today. We'd love to help.
Welcome back to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and I'd like to end the show today with a question that I got this week about a step-up in basis and whether or not your revocable trust will protect a step-up in basis for those who are inheriting. So, as you may know, when you buy a property, you have what's called a basis in the property. And why a step up in basis is important is because if a beneficiary decides to sell a property that they have inherited, their capital gains taxes will not be owed on the total appreciation of the asset since it was purchased. It will only be on the appreciation that occurred beyond the value of the asset at the time it was inherited. So as you can imagine, this is a huge benefit to inheriting property rather than gifting, because when you gift assets during your lifetime, the recipient of that gift is essentially going to step into your shoes and take over the asset at its original cost basis. Now, this means that they will be responsible on taxes on all of the accumulated capital gains when the investment is sold. So typically, assets that you place in your trust for your beneficiaries are eligible for a step-up in basis if the trust is revocable and therefore considered part of your taxable estate. But with an irrevocable trust, which is going to exist outside of your estate, the trust assets are not going to receive that step up in basis. And I also just want to mention to you as well that we talk a lot on the show about what's called a ladybird deed, and ladybird deeds actually do also preserve that step up in basis. So look into it. If you're thinking about doing some gifts, you may want to strategically think, what's going to be the best way to transfer or pass on wealth to my family. Maybe it's not gifting, and maybe it's leaving it as inheritance. So hopefully this has been helpful, and I hope that's answered your question. And thank you so much for tuning into today's show. You've been listening to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks. Join us this and every Saturday for the Elder Law Hour with Emily Hicks.